Hello and welcome to the TMWC Activity Professional Academy. My name is Tim Anderson, and this month we are focusing on some great tips for a volunteer program. Volunteer programming is sometimes considered the heart of the activities program because it is a great way to add more engagement with our clients and our residents. Today I'm going to talk about a few things that can make a great volunteer program work. The first tip that I'd like to give you is to make the program a part of your strategic plan. So as an activities coordinator and as an activities director, I have created strategic plans for my own departments, which include volunteers as a main part of how I'm going to increase staffing in some instances. For example, if my strategic plan says I'm going to increase programming for clients, or I'm going to increase a particular type of programming for clients, then that's what I focus on for my volunteer program. I might even go to the point of creating job descriptions specifically for a person to lead a specific type of program a certain number of times a week. So tip number 2 is actually knowing what you're looking for. If your goal is to increase one-on-one programming, then maybe you create a volunteer position that is specifically related to performing one-on-ones. And then you might put a posting out in various locations where you think you might find that volunteer. We are looking for a specific type of person for a specific type of job. The other thing you can do is just simply say, okay, well, my goal that was to increase the number of people that I have to access to do programs in the department. So in that case, maybe the job descriptions for your volunteers might be a little bit more open. They might focus on a wide variety of things that a volunteer might do. And it's important, though, that the more broad, the more vast it becomes of all the different responsibilities that a volunteer might have, the more confusing it can sometimes become and the more complicated it becomes. So being very specific about what you're looking for really helps to establish a good volunteer program where everybody knows what they're responsible for. The third tip I have for you is to plan your, quote, hiring procedure for volunteers. Hiring volunteers should not just come up to chance. Volunteers are governed by many of the same laws that we are governed by as staff in a facility. So some things you might want to create to show clarity for what you're looking for as a facility for your volunteers might be a brochure and an info packet. You might also create an application for a volunteer so that you can learn about what their past has been like, what skills and what knowledge and history they can bring to the table that might be a great fit for your facility and for your clients. Your brochure and your info package should also include the things that you need to know before they can come into your building, such as their immunization records, such as their background check, their national background check if your facility requires that, any documentation that you need to have before they can actually start working with clients. I think that's a really important thing to discuss up front, and it should also talk about the things that volunteers might do or the types of things you're looking for in potential volunteers. You also want to have a good interview process for potential volunteers when they come into your building. The person comes in, they go to the front desk, you come out, you bring the application to them and the info packet, you encourage them to read it over, go get their background check and their immunizations, because no matter whether they come to your facility or if they go to another facility in the area to volunteer, they're probably going to need that same information anyway. So have them get those things first and then call you to schedule an interview. And then once you've done the interview, you do the interview process, you schedule a time, you determine whether or not this is going to work. Then you schedule the time to say, okay, let's start you off in a couple of weeks or whenever you choose. And that way you can begin the orientation process, which leads me to our next tip. This is tip number 4, is to create an orientation program, a simple volunteer checklist is something that will really, really help you in this. And I'm going to put a link down in the description box below to the NCAP website, as they actually have a volunteer competencies checklist that you can access on their website. And it's really, really good. Tip number 5 is to establish an evaluation method. It's important that just like when you hire a new staff member, that you provide a new volunteer with lots of support to determine whether or not the relationship between the volunteer and your facility is working. And something that a lot of people do, and I know this was something that worked really, really well for me in Adult Day, was I would meet with them after 1 month of them working there. I'd check in with them periodically, but then after 1 month, we would meet and we would discuss what's working, what isn't, what did what do you want to know more about? What do you think would make your work here more effective? Things like that. And as a result, it built very good relationships with the volunteers. Those are some of my tips for a good volunteer program. Today's comment question is, what do you have in your volunteer program? What things have you established in your own buildings and your own facilities? I would love to see your comments and read your comments, kind of post them down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little notification buttons to find out when my next video will be posted. And I will see you next time.